Welcome to the first of our weekly TV discussions. I am Brandon.
And Mom, thank you so much for joining us today. We actually have an exciting show planned for you today.
Yes, we certainly do. And Mom, are you willing to share what that show is?
Yes, today we're going to talk about Perfect Strangers, and specifically, we're going to talk about the premiere episode of Perfect Strangers.
Yes, and so this episode is titled Knock Knock Who's There, and it's the first episode of the series premiere. And so I'm excited for us to dive into this TV discussion, and of course, we encourage you to watch with us. And Mom, are you able to let us know a little bit about the show?
Yes, I'm just going to give a very, very brief synopsis. Basically, this show is about two cousins who kind of meet in Chicago. One is from a country called Mypos, which is a small island in the Mediterranean. The other one is from Wisconsin, and they meet each other really one day, and together they will explore life together. And so, Brandon, I know this is kind of like a premiere episode, and that's something we like to watch. And so, what are some things that you thought were kind of important for it as being a premiere that stood out to you?
So being a premiere episode, which prior to making this channel, we discussed numerous premiere episodes over the course of almost the past year. But I'd say for this one, a lot of times we see premiere episodes, go into depth about names and personality traits, and have some sort of initiating event. And so in this case, this is with the main character Balky moving in to his cousin Larry's apartment, and as Larry actually says, this is that they are more relayed by rumor than anything, and so I think that's the main initiating event. We're able to see the setting that they're in, and the place that they work.
Yeah, that's one of the things that stand out, of course, as the initial, as this premiere episode. And something that kind of stands out to me is their personalities, I think, kind of come out initially. I mean, very, very quickly, you see that Balky is very much an extrovert, and he is someone who just kind of loves life, and he's happy to meet his cousin for the first time. And then Larry is a little skeptical of him, but together they seem to be okay, and they seem to be very accepting very quickly. I kind of like the way that they set everything up because it doesn't leave the audience to kind of guess what's going on. And they actually, even to me, do that in their theme song, that they kind of, when the theme song comes on, it kind of shows Balky as the sheep herder and Larry as someone who's leaving home for the first time, and which is something that they do a good job, I think, of discussing in this first episode. Because you never know, some series you have to guess what's going on. In this one, they just kind of lay it out for you.
Yeah, and I will say that speaking of the theme song part itself is, especially from us having gone through so many of these, is that some theme songs, especially those from like the 1960s, for instance, go into great depth to explain the premise of the show in the theme song. And while this one is a lot more, you know, this one does has some words to it, but it's not doing it in that way. But I feel like the visuals for the theme song definitely tell the story as to how we got to where we are now.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. And I really like the way they kind of connected the cousins in the regards to actually them working. I think one of the conditions that Larry had was that Balky could stay until he found a job. And so they did a really nice job of just kind of having them work together per se. Even though, let's just give a little background, Larry works at a place called Ritz Discounts, and so he sells things, and he works for someone. And this is not a permanent job for him. He wants to be a photojournalist. And these are things that we kind of learned, at least from the first episode. And so, because of this, Balky makes mistakes because he's new to the country, and so his mistakes are so much that he owes a little bit of money to the owner, and in the end, Larry kind of owes money too, and so that's how they kind of keep them together because they do have to work together in order to pay off whatever it is they've broken in this store.
Yeah, and as their boss says, welcome to debt, and yeah, but even for them, working together, and of course, like you said, Larry said that Balking can say just as long as it takes for him to find his own place, with his job, and then Balky, eagerly and excitedly replies, that yes, I will move out as soon as, I pay off the debt, that I can find my own place and pay my whole family's way through college on this minimum wage job.
Yes, yes. And Brandon, one of the other things that kind of, there are a couple of things. For this particular episode, I think we learn a little bit about Larry and Balky himself. Are there any things that you learn about both cousins?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, well, first of all, we have what they verbatim said that Balky was sort of looking for a new opportunity, and that's why he came to America, and only in America, can you experience certain things like the color blue on television, for instance, um, and pink lemonade, certain things that he found very new. But whereas for Larry, he kind of wanted to get out of the shadow of his mini siblings because he's never had a chance to be on his own. And I guess a question that I would almost have is is that since Larry said that he's just started living at home by himself at his bachelor pad, is how long exactly he had been there? Because it seems like he's done enough to get a job and to have a not friendly relationship with his boss, Mr. Twinkasetti. But in the same regard, is that it doesn't seem like he's all too familiar with anything just yet.
Well, Chicago's a new world for him, so no, he's not familiar with much of anything. I think he's just kind of happy to actually be on his own, as he kind of told Balky, you know, being there. And then one of the other things I kind of want to talk about was a little bit, and didn't come out so much in this episode, but the physical comedy. And that is something that we have both observed, I think, from, Perfect Strangers itself. I guess we can tell the audience that we're a little familiar with Perfect Strangers, so it's just not a one time that we watch this particular episode. We've watched several episodes of Perfect Strangers, and one of the things that kind of stand out for us is the physical comedy and how I think they do a really great job at that. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, this series definitely does really well with physical comedy, and this episode doesn't really show it as much, but it does to certain extents. But I feel like it really follows or rather, sets a part of the formula from its production company, Miller Boyett, and that I feel like so many of their shows, past, present, and so on, are all very rich in physical comedy. Like we think of a decade earlier with Laverne and Shirley, which is also very physical comedy heavy. And so I think having a duo pair in physical comedy within this setting just work hand in hand.
Yeah, I think so too. Brandon, would you continue watching this? I know we've seen quite a few. Will you continue watching Perfect Strangers?
Oh, absolutely. I have not yet finished the series, but I have seen maybe about a season and a half, or maybe even 2 seasons. But I think just a season and a half thus far. But I'm excited to definitely continue forward with the series. And yeah, but Mom, what about you? Would you rewatch the series?
Actually, I would rewatch the series, Brandon. I really enjoyed watching this first episode again. And one of the things, if we're able to take 1 minute to talk about, is the fact that we like watching some of the premiere episodes. And that's something that I think our viewers, need to know that that's something that we do like watching and analyzing their premiere episodes. And then sometimes we're able to talk about that in the midst of a larger series, and sometimes it's just the premiere episode itself.
Yeah, and so I'm just so excited to be doing this with you, Mom, and to share these first episodes. And something I did want to speak about as well before we wrap up this discussion is, as I was briefly saying before, is that this series is produced by Miller Boyett Productions and is written by Bickley Warren. And and one of the reasons I wanted to bring that up is that they had produced so many different series, especially family friendly series, dating back from the series Happy Days up until more recently Fuller House, ending in 2020. And so yeah, but I feel like they just have such a rich way of storytelling that is fun and exciting, but also very family friendly. And so I think this very much fits within their little niche. What do you think?
Actually, I think so too, Brandon. I really do. And we'd love to hear what people think about Perfect Strangers. Feel free to let us know in the comments.
Yes, definitely. Please do. And if there's anything else that you would like us to watch, definitely let us know that as well. And I hope that you're watching these shows with us as well. And let us
Oh,
know in the
yeah.
comments what you think of these discussions.
Yes, please do.
Well, Mom, I'm just so excited to be embarking on this next chapter of our journey. And I'm excited to see what's to come.
I'm so excited too, Brandon. Thank you, the audience, for watching with us. And we hope that you'll watch another episode of Perfect Strangers.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye bye.